welcome to another round of Crunch Time. This is week 2 for us. Once again, I'm Noah Elkin here with
Austin Mann. Glad you guys joined us again. We're going to talk about a variety of different topics as usual in the sports realm. So Noah, hit me with that first topic.
All right, so last week, first thing we talked about was Jimmy Butler, and he's going to be the first thing we talk about this week as well. In terms of new news, there's been reports that he would want to go to Miami as a first option. Do you think that's likely?
Well, I think Miami would be a great fit for Jimmy Butler just because he'll be the focal point, and he's been wanting to be the focal point of a team because he's always kind of played second fiddle. But I just don't see a scenario where the Heat pull off a trade because, think about who's they're going to return. Hassan Whiteside, Dion Waiters, and they're way overpaid as players. And they're as the Timberwolves, you want young players to build around, like Karl-Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. I was also saying, seeing that the Heat don't want to include James Johnson, who has the potential to be like Jimmy Butler, who's a solid perimeter defender. And if you look at his stats compared to his third season, he's pretty much right on line with Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is averaging around 13 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists a game. James Johnson's doing the exact same thing. So I wouldn't personally trade a player who's that young and has that much potential for a player who might bolt after a year.
All right, yeah, no, I think Jimmy Butler, could he get to Miami, would fit in well, especially since you have Dwayne Wade leaving after this season. I think he could fill that spot, pretty well. But I agree. I don't think that Miami has enough to send the Timberwolves without including some precious picks that I doubt they'd want to give up, considering they're kind of, they're not really in a full rebuild, but they're definitely not going to be competing for a ring this year.
I definitely think after this year, Miami should just consider a complete rebuild because they have pieces, but I don't know, their pieces aren't just good enough yet. So I would just start investing towards your future because right now the league is ran by 5 teams, and so it's Miami's not one of those 5 teams, and I just don't think it's going to be worth their time to trade for Jimmy Butler and pay him that much money, especially when he's about to enter his 30s. And you're trying to build for the future. How can you build around a guy who's your best player is 35 by the end of his contract?
Yeah, that's fair. So another potential destination is the Rockets. Apparently Houston is thinking about potentially sending an Eric Gordon package to Minnesota for Jimmy Butler.
I don't know. I just think that Eric Gordon's not a package headliner. It's he's a good player, but he's a system player. You need a system where he's literally just gonna run around the court and shoot, or give him the ball, let someone set him a screen, let him pull up. That's not Minnesota's system. Minnesota's system's more like a pick and roll, run through Cat. Andrew Wiggins just dunks pretty much. He still doesn't have a jump shot. I just don't think Eric Gordon would be a good fit with the Timberwolves, just because you need a system where it's guard heavy, and obviously Cat's the man in Minnesota. So I just don't see it's worth the Timberwolves' time, and anyways, because he's just at the tail end of his prime, and it's just it's not worth the investment.
I would agree with that. I think Jimmy Butler would be cool to see in Houston. You'd see a kind of a small ball 3-guard lineup with Jimmy probably starting at the 3. And I think that would work pretty well with Mike D'Antoni's system. But again, I think I have to agree. I honestly love Eric Gordon as a player. He's been a 6th man. He's won the 3-point contest. But he's always kind of been in the shadow of James Harden. So I'd kind of like him to go somewhere so I could see him, potentially even break out as a starter, even if he is maybe slightly past his prime. But I agree. I don't think he's enough for Jimmy Butler.
Even before he went to the Rockets, no one was really talking about Eric Gordon. He was kind of just floating around the league, and he finally found a team that fit his playing style. So I just think it's just not worth the time, especially if your man is a center. You obviously want him to have the ball the most, and Eric Gordon, the only way he's really going to contribute is if he has the ball in his hands, because it's not a great defender. I mean, he can pass all right, but it's he's just known for his shooting.
All right. Well, let's move on. Crazy Sunday full of football yesterday. Jared Goff actually broke a record. He passed for 465 yards and 5 TDs with a perfect passer rating. Now, plenty of quarterbacks have passed or have completed games with perfect passer ratings before, but nobody has done it with the amount of pass attempts that Jared Goff had on Sunday, which is 33. So that's new and incredibly impressive.
I'm just like, I just gotta shake Sean McVay's hand because like firmly believe Jared Goff would have been a bust after his like rookie season just because he was not good. But I don't know, Sean McVay just turned on a switch in Jared Goff, and ever since Sean McVay's been coach for the Rams, like Jared Goff's been putting up some numbers, and like honestly, like Jared Goff has made strides compared to his rookie season, but like I would have to just give most of the credit for like to Sean McVay just for unlocking like knowing what Jared Goff does best and catering towards that rather than trying to force him to run like a typical pro offense because he went to Cal and they run an air raid system, and so literally he's really just good at airing out the ball. And what do the Rams do? Air out the fucking ball.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think you can give a lot of credit to Jared Goff. I mean, he's come farther than I would have expected. I think last year I was definitely on the Carson Wentz train. I thought that he was the better pick. I think you gotta take a step back now and really consider that question a little bit more. The one thing I will say is the Rams arguably have the best receiving core in the NFL.
Yeah, and they arguably have the best defense in the NFL.
They are arguably the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
How about that? You know,
it's like that receiving core is insane. They got Brandon Cooks, right?
You got Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and you also got Todd Gurley who can catch all day.
Yeah, that's a stacked team. So I definitely think like he's set up for success. Just look at how ridiculous his supporting cast is. You literally can't leave anybody open. Like you have to put your best corner on probably Brandon Cooks, but like Robert Woods is a number one receiver too. Cooper Kupp is just like I think the next Julian Edelman, Wes Welker type because he's so good in the slot.
He's bigger though,
and he's bigger, so he's more durable. So I just think the Rams really built themselves a team, like especially coming from Jeff Fisher era, like to say that they went from just a mediocre team to like a great football team literally in an off season is just perplexes me because like I did not expect much from the Rams last season, and now that like the Rams have like such high expectations for them, I'm just like amazed that they're keeping it up.
Yeah, and on Sunday, Goff, he passed for those 465 yards against none other than the Vikings defense, who last year I believe were rated number 1 or 2 with the Jaguars being the other defense right
definitely
up there.
Like they probably have one of the best corners in the league. Xavier Rhodes is not
lockdown corner.
It's a lockdown corner. Like him, Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Peterson. My bad, wrong sport. But I'm just like shocked that he was able to do it against a team that good. Like the Vikings literally lock down almost any team they play. The fact that he just threw for like 500 yards casually against them, just wow. I gotta shake Jared Goff's hand too.
2 handshakes on the schedule. All right. Well, speaking of young quarterbacks breaking records, Mitch Trubisky also had a record-setting day Sunday. He threw for 5 touchdowns in the first half alone. He capped that at 6 touchdowns throughout the whole game, which is a Bears record dating back to before the Super Bowl era. So I don't know. Personally, I thought Mitch Trubisky was kind of destined to be an average quarterback, and similar to Jared Goff, actually. Different style of plays, but I didn't think either of them would be able to reach this kind of potential.
Yeah, I think Mitch Trubisky, he has like all like the skills, the talent to get there. It's just he needs to fine-tune in certain aspects of the game. Like I think his footwork is a little sloppy as a quarterback. He definitely needs to work better in the pocket because he gets still hit a lot. And I think he just needs to work on like reading defenses better. But I think he's shown a lot more improvement compared to last season. I also think it has to do with the change in coaching staff. Like they paired him with a coach who is an offensive-minded, like Matt Nagy is, I think, one of the better offensive minds in the football world right now. especially because he came under Andy Reid, who is, I think, one the most underrated coach in NFL history. But just because he doesn't have a Super Bowl, he's not going to be remembered as a great coach. But anyways, like, I think Mitch Trubisky definitely needs like another year or two before we can consider him a good QB. Right now he'll be mid-level, mid-tier. But I definitely by no means think he's bad. I just think he needs more time to fine-tune his game.
All right, I think the Bears' offense is greatly helped by the Bears' defense. Right at the beginning of the season, they traded for Khalil Mack, who's now the highest-paid defensive player in NFL history. And get this, through the first 4 weeks of the season, he has recorded a sack and a forced fumble in every game. Austin, if the season ended today, could you give a defensive player, Khalil Mack, the MVP?
Oh, yeah. Like, he is the Bears' defense, essentially. Like, the Bears would not be that good without him. Just, like, think about who's their secondary, who's their cornerbacks. Like, no one to, like, really pop your eyes at. It's, like, literally all their defense is pass rush. And Khalil Mack is just killing it. Like, you see him every play, he's always in the backfield. He always finds a way in the backfield. No matter whether he's double covered, triple covered, you can put the whole offensive line on him. He will still find a way in that backfield.
And that's the thing, is teams do have to double, give him a double team virtually every play, which even if they're successful in keeping Khalil Mack out due to the double team, it's going to open up doors for other people along the defensive line.
They have a pretty solid, like, deep pass rush. Like, they have Leonard Floyd, who came out of Georgia a couple years ago, Roquan Smith, who's looking pretty nice as a...
What was he, number 8 draft pick this year?
Number 8 draft pick. The Bears definitely have a foundation in place to be competing. Not this year, probably not next year. I just think, like, 2 years from now, I think we'll be talking about the Bears as playoff contenders, just because they have all the right pieces there. You just need to get, like, the right supporting cast around those foundational pieces.
Yeah, honestly, I think the Bears have a chance to definitely make the playoffs this year. I don't think they'll advance very far. But, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they manage to sneak their way in there for a first round.
I just think that Mitch Trubisky just needs, like, a solid receiving core. It's like he doesn't really have a true number one wideout.
Yeah, that's true.
So I can't even think of their number one receiver on the top of my head. If you're the Chicago Bears listening, find your boy Mitch Trubisky, a number one wide receiver, and you'll be doing real well. Just imagine if he was with Odell. Like, if he makes, like, Eli Manning, like, old man Eli Manning good sometimes, like, he can make Mitch Trubisky real good. So maybe trade for him? Suggestion.
All right. So Adam Vinatieri has been around the league for quite some time, and on Sunday he kicked his 566th field goal, which is more than any other kicker in NFL history. What do you think of that?
I just got to say, Adam Vinatieri, I hope you kick till you're 50, just because it'd be cool to see a 50-year-old kicker. But, like, I respect Adam Vinatieri just for the fact that he is able to kick this well for over 20 years, essentially, and is still one of the better kickers as he approaches, like, upper 40s. Like, I'm just impressed the fact that he's been able to do it for this long and still do it at such a high level. He's a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Like, you cannot let him, like, be snubbed like that. But I just think that Adam Vinatieri enjoys kicking the football for his career, and I'm glad I've been able to watch it. Like, ever since I was a kid, I've known who Adam Vinatieri was, and he's always been making them field goals. So you're doing something right. The fact that you only been employed by 2 teams and as a kicker, and you willingly left your other team to go to another team and stay with that team for, like, close to 2 decades now. It's like, it's insane. Adam Vinatieri, you deserve a handshake.
All right. So how about Lamar Jackson? He didn't get a whole lot of playing time this past week. He did when the Ravens were blowing out the Bills a couple weeks ago, but he did actually line up a couple plays as a running back and as a wide receiver. So I guess my question would be, do you think Lamar Jackson has a future as a receiver or a back.
I definitely think that he's in certain like plays, like you definitely should run him as a quarterback, or no, wide receiver and running back. But I think his future is as a quarterback, just because like he won a Heisman as a quarterback at Louisville, and you know who also was an NFL quarterback? Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow could not throw the ball, but somehow he was a first round pick and started for 2 seasons with the Denver Broncos, and not only that, started a playoff game and won a playoff game. I just think like you got to give Lamar Jackson like at least a season as like an NFL quarterback, just because he has the potential to be what Michael Vick could have been. Just because you don't encounter like a quarterback that athletic who can run that fast and still throw like a pretty nice football.
Yeah, first off, I got to defend my guy Tim Tebow because correct me if I'm wrong, but he does have a Heisman as well, doesn't he?
He does have a Heisman.
All right, well, there you go. But I don't know. I think in regards to Lamar Jackson, I agree that that he should remain a QB. I don't know if he'll ever really get to a starting job, but that's what he came out of college as. That's what he knows how to do.
Let me ask you this: do you think the Ravens will move on from Joe Flacco either after this season or next season? If they see enough from Lamar Jackson.
I almost want to say yes because I am not a huge fan of Joe Flacco's game, but at the same time, he's putting up pretty good numbers this year. Like I think he is probably. I think virtually any team in the league would take a Joe Flacco style QB.
Yeah,
he's consistent. He can throw the long ball. He doesn't turn it over a lot. He's what you want in a QB.
I think he's just like he's a stopgap quarterback essentially now. Like 2012, like in the playoffs, probably one of the better postseasons I've seen from a quarterback. Just because Joe Flacco just played out of his mind. But Joe Flacco's way past that point now, and right now all you're paying for is really just someone to not turn over the football. And at the end of the day, like that's what you want out of your quarterback, but that quarterback's not gonna win you games when it comes down to it. I just think that like Lamar Jackson has the potential to be great, and he could be that quarterback that is like talked about, and what you wanted Joe Flacco to be.
I think Lamar Jackson, if he wanted to accept a wide receiver role, he would be capable of doing that. He's an incredibly athletic person. I think he could play a variety of different roles, almost like a Tavon Austin style player. But I would agree that I think ideally he still has a future as a QB because, like I said, that's what he knows how to do. That's what he wants to be.
Yeah, and like he was drafted in the first round as a quarterback. Eventually he's going to get his shot. I just don't know when he's going to get that shot.
All right. So Le'Veon Bell, we talked about him briefly last week. According to Adam Schefter, he is now supposed to report Week 7 for the Steelers. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like Le'Veon is just hurting his like value now, just because what team's going to want to sign him just if he's just going to be like this? It's more so like a character issue than he's probably a top 2 running back in this league when he plays, but it's just like he's hurting himself more by showing that he's difficult, and like what franchise wants to sign a difficult player because football teams are full of difficult players.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent I agree with you, but at the same time I think if a team were to trade for him, they would, similar to like the Khalil Mack deal, they would immediately extend him, and then I think for the next 5 years you would have a player who is satisfied with his situation and likely wouldn't cause these problems for your organization. Yeah. Part of the reason that he's been an issue for the Steelers is because they've refused to sign him to a long-term deal, which is, I couldn't tell you why. I mean,
yeah.
if I was a Steelers fan, I would want Le'Veon Bell wrapped up in a long-term contract as soon as possible.
I would too, but I don't know. I think the Steelers definitely they missed their window to extend him. And I really don't know what the Steelers were thinking. Like, he put up, like, 2 good, like, great seasons. Like, one of the best seasons you'll see from a running back. And the fact that they were just like, we'll give it another year. kind of just perplexes me. It's like you want that person on your team because he makes your team better. And think about how much longer Big Ben, Antonio Brown are going to be great. It's like,
that's a good point.
And you need Le'Veon Bell to be mitigate that, just because he also adds to like this great Steelers offense we've been seeing over the past 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. The Steelers have, in my opinion, kind of underperformed this year so far, and you can probably contribute some of that to Le'Veon Bell not being there.
Because like literally their offense is, if you lock down Antonio Brown, it's like who's Big Ben gonna throw it to?
Well, you got Juju.
You got Juju.
Put some respect on my man Juju's name over here.
Juju is pretty good. He's really good. He's really good.
No, but I know what you're saying. Like, I don't know, nothing against James Conner. I think he's a great running back. He'll get his chance either with the Steelers or someone else, and I think he'll be a starter in the league. But Le'Veon Bell is a different kind of animal.
Well, it's just like you're not only getting a running back, you're also just getting a wide receiver too. So essentially, anytime Le'Veon's in the field, you essentially have 3 to 4 wide receivers on your field, and the fact that you can just easily hand it to him and he'll just make something. He's a scary player. And I definitely think that's someone you want on your franchise. But Steelers, I understand you don't want to open up your wallets, and you seem pretty content with James Conner. And I think James Conner will develop into a nice player, but he's no Le'Veon.
Do you think Le'Veon will come back as a Steeler, or do you think he'll end up somewhere else?
I don't know. I think right now people need to see Le'Veon play before they want to make a trade for him, just because you need that like justification to see like, all right, he's a really good player.
I mean, if I'm a GM, like maybe I'd be a little bit concerned that he hasn't been keeping up shape during these
No,
first
it's
few
like
weeks.
that's why.
But at the same time, like, this is Le'Veon Bell that we're talking about. I think if I'm a GM, maybe I'd like to see him play a couple weeks, but I don't think I need that. You know what I mean? I think there's a lot of teams that would be prepared to dish out quite a bit of money without getting to see him play a couple weeks.
Well, the thing is, it's just like running backs are kind of a weird position because there's a lot of superstars, but running backs also have the shortest career span.
It's true.
And he's approaching his like upper 20s. So I think after the season he'll be 27, and obviously his contract wise, like he'll probably get like at least 5 years. But
yeah, easily.
But it's more so now that like he's gonna reach 30, it's gonna put some teams off. I definitely think it's not worth like trading for him. If I was a team, I'd try to wait and see after the season, and then try to sign him outright as a free agent rather than try to give up some pieces. Just because running backs, you can find like a gem in any round in the NFL, or even undrafted. I definitely think like running backs, one of those positions there you should value, but at the same time, it's not like you can't find a good one anywhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is kind of a weird position because you see stars like Le'Veon Bell and Todd Gurley stand out in the NFL, and you see, like Saquon Barkley go number 2 overall. But at the same time, like most of the time, I feel like teams often like to draft like 2nd and 3rd round running backs because, there's just honestly there's an abundance of them.
Le'Veon Bell was a 2nd round pick out of Michigan State. Like he wasn't a 1st round. Who says the Steelers can't just draft a running back in the 2nd round next and find maybe the next Le'Veon Bell? So I think that's where the Steelers are coming from. It's like Le'Veon Bells, they don't come often, but like they could find another Le'Veon if they draft correctly.
All right. Well, speaking of NFL players who are unhappy with their current contract situation, Earl Thomas went down with an injury on Sunday, and as he was being carted off the field, he gave his own sideline the bird, which does not bode well for his future with that team.
Well, I understand where Earl Thomas is coming from, just because he's been wanting a contract extension, and he deserves that contract extension. He's probably been, before he broke his leg last year, he's probably been like the best safety in the NFL for like 6 years, ever since pretty much he came out of college. And I definitely think he's been disrespected by the Seahawks organization, by them just like not even willing to sit down and negotiate a contract extension. and it's just like they'd much rather just trade him away than actually sign him. And I just think it's more so him feeling disrespected. I don't know. What's your take on this situation?
I think you're spot on. I think the Seahawks have done a absolutely terrible job of keeping their defense especially happy, or really their team as a whole. I mean, first of all, Russell Wilson's your franchise player. Get him a goddamn offensive line already. And then, you talk about the defense, who was number one in the NFL just a few years back, Legion of Boom, which is all but disintegrated now, And I think in terms of the players being unhappy with the management, like look at Richard Sherman, he didn't get that extension that he wanted, so what did he do? He went to the team's biggest rivals in the 49ers to try to make them better because they have a management team that's willing to pay him upfront guaranteed money.
It's just, I don't really understand the Seahawks management. It's like, Russell Wilson's your best player. Why are you trying to give him players who probably... a lot of their offensive lines converted defensive linemen into offensive linemen, and the fact that they have not spent a first-round pick on a freaking offensive tackle just perplexes me. It's because Russell Wilson can only get hit for so much longer before his play is going to drop off. Imagine, Russell Wilson is a great quarterback, probably a top 5 QB in this league. Just imagine if you had a solid offensive line. Imagine his numbers.
Yeah, if he played on the Cowboys or something.
If he just played on a team with a serviceable offensive line, any offensive line is better than the Seahawks, pretty much. You see, half the time whenever I watch the Seahawks play, he's literally just running away from linebackers and defensive linemen, and then he just keeps running around until he's all right, someone's finally open. And also sign him some receivers, get him a true number 1 receiver.
Yeah, I feel like Russell Wilson is kind of known for his scramble ability, but at the same time, he really shouldn't be, Mm-hmm. It's something that helps his game, but it should be a last resort. It shouldn't be something he's doing on every single play.
Exactly. And it's just come on, Seahawks management. Treat your players with respect. Earl Thomas, he's been deserving of a contract extension. All he wanted was just financial stability because football players get injured a lot, and he broke his leg, and obviously he's not going to get that contract he's been seeking. So it's kind of just a slap in the face to him, the fact that you're not willing to sit down and take the time to negotiate a contract, or at least even talk about a contract extension. You pretty much just were just all right, let's go. You want a contract extension? We'd rather just trade you.
Yeah. I think you painted that picture real well, and that's exactly why he gave his own sidelight in the bird on Sunday.
So it's you can be mad at him, but at the same time, it's totally justified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope he ends up somewhere. And honestly, I think the Seahawks need to rebuild. I don't think they have much going for them right now. If anything, they're trending downhill. They're not going to make the playoffs. I think Russell Wilson is still your best player. I think you keep him and you start everything else over.
Exactly. You hear that, Seahawks? If you need advice, listen to this podcast.
All right, and we got one more topic. If our viewers don't know, we are actually both students here at CU Boulder. And we're a little excited right now because our football team is 4-0 for the first time since 1998. However, there is a little bit of a downside because we're 4-0 against teams who have a combined record of 1-17. Those teams being, UCLA, New Hampshire, Nebraska, and Colorado State University.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that our team is looking real good and only 2 more wins away from being bowl eligible. So I think we're going to make a bowl this year. It's just I need to see Colorado play against a good team before I can justify them being good. Just because it's they've dominated, or not actually dominated. Nebraska, it was a close game, and Nebraska that week after literally just got ran a train on by Michigan.
Michigan is real good. I'd say they're top 5 in the nation.
But also, I have a lot of confidence though. Just the way Montez has just improved from last season is just insane. He's making passes that he probably could not complete last year. I just think that their receiving core is good. LaVisca is the number one receiver in FBS football right now.
And I don't think anyone saw that coming.
No one saw that coming. Like, I was looking at his player profile. He's from Texas, obviously a great bloodline for football, but he was only a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. And last season he played in like all 12 games, but he only had like 12 catches or something for under like 300 yards receiving. And the fact that he's eclipsed that within a game essentially is
in only 4 games.
In only 4 games, and the fact that now he's built himself quite a pro career in the future if he keeps this up.
Yeah, we're all rooting for him. I think the Colorado football team will be tested in coming weeks. Their next 3 games are against Arizona State, USC, and Washington.
I definitely think our team's gonna win against Arizona State. I definitely think they'll beat USC just because USC hasn't been looking that good this year. Just because there's a lot of inexperience on their offense now that Sam Darnold's gone, and they're playing a true freshman quarterback who, by the way, should technically be a high school senior. So Colorado, go after him. Anyways, I think Washington's going to be our first true test, and to see like whether we're like a legit contender or we're a pretender.
Yeah, I honestly think the USC game will be a challenge, but I agree. I think we'll come out on top there. I think you're right. The Washington game will be a fun game to watch and really show the nation, what we can do, or perhaps what we can't do.
Like, I'm glad though that we're winning games we should win. Like, definitely should have. I'm glad they smacked UCLA, just because it's like UCLA is 0-3 and clearly they have a lot of problems everywhere.
Yeah, and say what you want about the teams we played, but hey man, we're 21 in the nation right now, so that's all you need to know.
We probably have the best receiver in FBS football, and I think we're only trending up from here.
Yeah, all right. Well, you'll have to tune in next week to see if we continue our dominance in the Pac-12 South. For this week, this has been Crunch Time. For Awesome Man, I'm Noah Elkin.
See you later, guys. Have a good one.